We've been poisoned and overtaken by our own habit of feeling that we're not safe in the world and we have to take care of ourselves. And we've swallowed the nationalism, ethnic nationalism poison pill, and we've made it our religion. I mean, there's an Israeli flag on the pulpit of most synagogues. We worship the goddamn thing. And it's in our liturgy. So it really, I think, has poisoned us fundamentally as a faith community. And so it's at that level. And if we're going to have a future, we've got to do something about it. That's why I compare it to the Protestant Reformation. You know, basically we've just said the whole goddamn thing is rotten. You know, the church, which was only the Holy See, is corrupt, which it was, and we need an alternative. I won't push the analogy that much farther, but I mean, it's at that level. That's what I mean.
And what is the alternative in your vision?
You know, here's the thing. It's not that far away. Before the establishment of the State of Israel, which came, of course, in the aftermath of the Nazi Holocaust, most institutional Judaism was either non-Zionist or anti-Zionist. I mean, modern institutional Judaism, Reform Judaism, even conservative Judaism, even said, we want to be a faith community like the Protestants. Take a look at the synagogues that were built. They looked like churches. They had organs. You're not supposed to play the organ on Shabbos. But they had organs. We want to be like the Goyim. And so that we can be part of the larger community of the West. And why would we want to associate ourselves with an ethnic nationalist movement? That would make us like Catholics who have that issue. You know, what do we do about Rome? So, and most Catholics that I know say I'm a good Catholic in spite of Rome. So it's not really Judaism. So maybe we don't have to have a Reformation. Maybe we just need to clean up our act, get rid of this mistake that we made, which I regard as understandable and forgivable, but catastrophic. Jettison Zionism and say, yeah, I understand why we did it, and we did it in the zeitgeist of the late 19th century, and everybody was about ethnic nationalism, and that's fine, but it's totally anachronistic today, and it's not good for us, and look at the mess we've made. When are we going to be able to let go of it? I don't know what's going to allow that to happen. But I know that Israel is unsustainable, and I don't expect it to look like it looks in 10 years. And we'll have to figure that out. You need to let us figure that out. Because if you wait for us to figure it out, you're going to wait too long. And all that time, you're not going to be with Jesus, because I know what Jesus will do. It's what he was doing 2,000 years ago. Because when he stood in front of that temple, he was saying, something's rotten in our Jewish leadership. I mean, he didn't go to the Roman palace. He stood in front of the temple. It was his own people he was up against. The Pharisees, the Jewish kings, the priests. It wasn't about Rome. It was about how the Jewish establishment had thrown in with Rome. And we're back there again. So it seems to me, if you read your Gospels, you're seeing the story of 21st century Palestine, except that now it's the Jews who are the Romans, and it's the Palestinians who are Jesus. Naim Ati gets into a lot of trouble when he says the Palestinians are Jesus on the cross. And people say, of course it's anti-Semitic. The Jews are killing God again. I mean, it's tragic, it's ironic, it's crazy. It's crazy. But that's what's happening. Palestinians are Jesus. Of course Palestinians are Jesus. You know, the people who are getting killed and oppressed anywhere. It's straight classic liberation theology. Whoever it is who's getting kicked around, that's Jesus on the cross. We know we have to do.
Two quick questions. One, how do you be non-anti-Semitic but anti-APEC? and talk about that.
You have to repeat over and over again, like a broken record, that Zionism is not Judaism. That Israel, the state of Israel, is not the Jewish people. Now, again, the whole diplomatic strategy of the state of Israel has been to confuse you about that. If you're with the Jews, you're with Israel. If you're with Israel, you're with the Jews. If you're not with Israel, you're not with the Jews. You have to challenge that. You have to say, listen, I've heard this from Jews. There are many Jews who are not Zionists, they're still good Jews. Many Jews who do not believe that the state of Israel is doing the right thing, or that they need the state of Israel to be good Jews or to be safe. And that AIPAC is not good. According to many, many Jews, and go to Jewish Voice for Peace, and they will say AIPAC does not speak for me, and AIPAC is not good for the Jews. AIPAC's a lobby. It's a lobby of a sovereign state that basically is now a rogue state in violation of international law. It's a lobby of a foreign government. That's AIPAC. It does not represent the Jewish people. In fact, let's say if you're against AIPAC, then you're a friend of the Jews.
I heard you say that Israel is a traumatized society, and that militarizing it and putting a wall around it is the wrong way to go. So how do we, who are outside of that wall, dealing with our own traumas, how do we talk to a traumatized society or to the people who are themselves traumatized in association?
What you do with traumatized people is, before you try to talk to them and help cure them of their trauma, is you get them out of the traumatizing situation. That's number one. The best thing you can do is do whatever you can to change United States policy so we can stop, so we can help those people. And that's what they're crying for, the ones who are crying for it. The other ones have their heads in the sand or they're totally lost. What Israelis tell me is, we can't do it ourselves. We absolutely need you to do your worst or your best to change our country's policies and to change the politics. It's the best thing you can do for those folks. Now, you can go there and visit them and support them and all of that, but you're not going to get them out of that situation by talking to them. They're stuck there. They're the victims.
I have a question. When you were talking about people from within Israel that did have a different view of it and did have an understanding of what the occupation was doing to the Palestinians, et cetera, I was wondering how that voice arose. Did that come out of academia or from the young people, or how?
You're talking about Jewish people?
Yes. How is the awareness happening within Israel of people who are seeing?
Well, you're talking about within Israel.
Within Israel, yeah.
Well, I mean, there's been an Israeli left for a long, long time. It was especially arose during the first Lebanon War, where there was an enormous amount of, it was like us in the Vietnam War. They have been successively beaten down and disempowered. For one thing, Israel politically, in terms of its the people in general, has been going to the right for almost its entire history. It started off as like not even a social democracy, more left-wing than anything you've seen in Europe, and it has gone to the right for its entire history, mostly because it's been threatened with attack and resistance from Palestinians who are not happy about how things have been turning out.
But there's always been a minority report.
There's always been a minority. The joke in Israel now is that there are 50 organizations in Israel who are that are on the left, and it's the same 50 people. That's black humor. When you talk to people in Israel who are trying to work for change, who are really, really against either opposing the government's policies on a fundamental level, or we're trying to do something about educating people in Israel about the real history of the Nakba, about what they really did to the Palestinians, what really happened in 1948. They are now in the process of almost becoming outlaws because Israel is really drifting into fascism. There are laws now that are making it illegal for them to even operate. They're trying to go around it in other ways to keep them from being funded, etc. So Israel is still sort of masquerading as a democracy. But in fact, if you take a look at the cabinet, Bibi's, Netanyahu's latest cabinet, I mean, excuse me, it looks like Hitler and his cabinet. I mean, he has gathered around him people who are racists, who talk like criminals, and who say ugly, horrible things about Arabs. So it's scary. And it's scary for those people on the left. They are brave. They are still trying. There's a group called Boycott from Within that is absolutely calling for boycott. Not just for boycotting settlement goods. Boycott Israel. Save our country. There's a group called Zochrot, which means we remember, which goes around the country putting signs up in parking lots, in ruined villages, in the middle of kibbutz orchards, saying, this is the name of the Palestinian village that was here. They do that. Then people come and they take the signs off. But they're still
that's
functioning.
brave.
It's really brave. And you have to have a lot of compassion for them, and we're working to support them. But they will also, they, at the same time they say, we can't do this without you. I think there are lots of Israeli voices. I don't think we should get involved directly in their struggles. I think our main target is Washington, because that's our responsibility. It's our tax dollars and it's our government. And nothing's going to, it's not about Tel Aviv, it's not about Ramallah, it's not about Jerusalem. It's about Washington and Berlin and London and, maybe Paris and Brussels. But especially the United States. I mean, it's crazy what we're doing and how we're supporting Israel and keeping it going. And all we have to do is lift a finger and say, we're going to make our aid conditional on A, B, and C, and what's Israel going to do? They need the money. But I think that BDS is important that way because it may not have a direct economic impact on Israel, although it's starting to in some ways. It's hurting them a bit, especially with the big European contracts. But, the Presbyterians and the Methodists taking $10, $20 million of their shares and divesting from Caterpillar. Caterpillar's not going to feel that. They don't give a shit. And they've said so. They said, we don't care. We're still going to build it. We don't care. But it does have political reverberations in this country. When our legislators hear from us and also notice what's going on in the major Christian denominations, that will start to make a difference because it'll change the political calculus for them. And they'll feel that they may be able to vote differently. And there's going to be a counter force to AIPAC. And one thing we do in Kairos USA, which is one of our main thrusts this year, is to work in communities at the grassroots to get people, especially Christians and clergy, to visit their senators and congresspeople in their district and state offices. Because you really believe they're getting visits on the Hill from AIPAC, but not much is happening in the districts and states. And so it's really, really important for that to happen.